So I brought you in all this way. Chris, you finally made it to the Boss to Boss show. And there's one thing that's been on my mind and it's bothering me. And I'm curious what your reaction and thoughts are. You got your first ever review on your book, Start Ugly, a timeless tale about innovation and change on Amazon. How do you feel about it?
Actually, I got my first 1-star review after 72 5-star reviews. So it,
Did I say first ever review?
yeah. It's okay.
First
but
1-star. There you go.
my first 1-star review, and the person said it was just a long blog post. Meanwhile, this is a book that it took a team of people to write, and immediately you're like, "Go F yourself," is the ego reaction. But honestly, I put my stuff out there, and it's going to have some people are not going to see it for the quality and the purpose that was sent out. So I feel good. Actually, I'm going to celebrate it. I've already conditioned myself. I'm a promoter and I build community. So I've already conditioned myself to take in negative feedback from trolls in a very positive way.
Yeah, I think you even talked about this on a show where some were speaking that it's more about them at that point than you, right?
Well, I shouldn't call this person a troll. Just their objective feedback on my book was that it was just a long blog post, which is not accurate. However, it's how they felt about it. And I appreciate that they took the time to write the feedback.
Yeah, that must mean they read it too. So if anything, there you go. There's an extra person to learn. But for everyone tuning in, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching one of the videos, but if you're not, if you're on one of the podcast avenues, be sure to check out Chris Krimitsos, his website, chriskrimitsos.com or podfestexpo.com. And I'll spell that one really quick. Krimitsos, Krimitsos.
Yeah, good man. Thank you.
It's a mouthful.
A little bit.
But yeah, it's definitely a pleasure having you on here today. And something that the book, right? Start Ugly. You can be found everywhere, right? Amazon.
Yeah, but mostly Amazon is where it's at, but you can find it. You search it, you'll find it.
Awesome. And right now, these days, a lot's going on. You know, last I saw you, I was at your event with 1,000+ people. Do you know the final count of number that showed up?
We had around 1,500.
So around 1,500 at your Podfest Expo in Orlando, which was amazing, by the way. And the venue was top notch.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out. Really appreciate having you.
Yeah, it was wild. I remember my producer messaged me and we had to talk about this. He's like, I recommend you highly don't go. Like, I don't want you to go. My fiance's mom was telling me, like, I don't know if I want you back in the house if you go.
Oh, because of the coronavirus. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause this is right as it was kicking off.
It was accelerating. Yeah.
Yeah. I went, I definitely went at that point. I didn't know, nobody thought it would turn into this. How has it affected you?
Well, you have to realize I've never promoted into a pandemic. So I knew it was going to get bad. I think all of us had different ideas of how bad it was going to get. But luckily for me, the event went on. We kept everybody safe. We had to create safety protocols to keep everybody kind of distance if they wanted to be distanced, not touching each other. Moving forward now, I'm doing some virtual events. So actually, it's kind of weird, but for me, everything came out really phenomenal. So I was very fortunate. Now, as far as the emotions of dealing with being quarantined and, friends getting sick, that's a whole different thing. But as far as on the business side, I just feel very fortunate and lucky that we were the last multimedia event of the year so far at this point to go on. It was like having a party with all your friends and then the next day knowing that there was no more parties to be had, so to speak.
It was weird that last day on Sunday when everything was ending. Just, things started getting eerie and creepy. I remember going to the airport. I started seeing masks everywhere. And this was that March 8th, I want to say, right? Was that the last day?
Yeah, it was like 48 hours later, most things locked down literally that Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because what happened was the Monday after Podfest, I guess they had 2 cruise ships, one in California, one in Florida, out on the waters, and 24/7 they would just show the cruise ships and coronavirus coming to the U.S. spreading. So the mass hysteria hit our fever pitch on that Tuesday. So we had over 2,000 registered to attend Podfest. So it had to impact our numbers. But as you know, you were there. Our community was so vibrant and so loving and so amazing I just think we're very lucky that podcasters, by and large, are very passionate. So they aired with caution, but they showed up to Podfest to have a good time. Then after that, everybody basically went into quarantine.
What would you have done different? How do you feel your preparation went into the event, and kind of into the unknown?
I think looking back on it, I think the only thing I would not have done is at one point I got so scared about coronavirus, I stopped promoting for like a 48-hour period of time.
Huh.
I probably would have just had I already had a safety plan in place. I probably would have kept promoting. I mean, now looking back on it, everybody was fairly healthy, but I mean, you can't play that game. We did what we did. I had a really great wife keeping me sane and focused. And from what I could tell, I didn't see anyone that got coronavirus from the event in general. Who knows if someone did, but no one so far has said. We had a couple people that got ill, but they got tested and they came up negative that I know of.
And was there a lot of stress leading into it? Like, did you have
Yes,
to?
yes. I could deal with the normal stress of a
Yeah.
promotion of like managing your staff, managing your attendees, trying to match expectations. But having a pandemic coming to your doors and not knowing, there was a lot of unknowns back then. And there was a lot of hysteria. That was extremely scary.
Because it kind of, I guess when I saw you a couple of times, I felt like there was something going on behind the scenes of the face.
Well,
And
you have to, well, at an event, there's always something going on
yeah,
behind the scenes. But also, there's a possibility that the event might get closed down any day while we were there. Luckily, that didn't happen, but it was just a lot of pressure. I've had pressure, but that was probably the most pressure I've ever had, because now you're dealing with people's health, and
yeah.
that's a whole different level of pressure that for anyone. Now you're dealing with someone's wellness, whether if they have pre-existing conditions. Once you start thinking about that, that's pretty intense.
And did you go with like refunds and things like that? Was that a nightmare as well? That part?
Not really. We were very fortunate. We were able to deliver. We were very proactive. And this
Yeah.
is what I would tell anybody. If you're going to be in this business, try and be as proactive as you can be. And if people couldn't fly into the country, because we had someone in Finland, they shut down
Mhm.
flying or something, or someone said I was in Italy and they asked for a refund, we were giving it to them, or we would just say, hey, we'll give you a ticket to next year's event. And they were all understanding about it. So we were very fortunate in that we didn't have a big thing. And quite honestly, I feel bad for a lot of my peers that, if you did sell tickets, like South by Southwest sold tickets, they didn't give anyone a refund.
Yeah,
So, it's the money for people that don't own an event, the money is spent before everybody shows up, because you have to buy
exactly.
your AV costs, your hotel. There's a lot of money you have to lay out before everybody shows up.
Yeah. So were you able to kind of get by? Because I'm sure
Yeah, we're doing
you already,
great. We're
yeah.
going to be good. Everything's good. Now we're going to do virtual summits. So we're very fortunate in that we have time to adjust. And then I got very lucky in that the contract for next year's hotel didn't come through. So we're negotiating now in May. So we're going to be moving the dates a little further out in 2021.
Okay. Yeah. Because on your website on podfestexpo.com, currently
Yeah, we're
it's
about to
still
change
March,
that.
right?
We have some
Okay.
placeholders, but we're going to change it just to be safe, because, you
Yeah.
got to wait for the vaccines and everything to come out.
Hey, I would know. I just postponed my wedding by 14 months.
Did you
So
really? Wow.
there you go.
The weird part is what you don't realize when you say events, you're not just talking about conferences, you're talking about weddings, funerals. A friend of mine unfortunately passed away in an airplane
Sorry to,
crash.
wow. I'm
Yeah, and
sorry to hear that.
his kids set up the funeral via Zoom. So we're all there via Zoom. Somehow they got to Zoom out to the rabbi was doing the service out in the grave, and we were all on Zoom watching it. So it's just a weird time.
Was this a telecast? Like, was this all over the news?
No, it was a single engine. It was on the news
Hmm.
locally, but he was just flying up to see his grandbaby, and then
Wow.
something happened with his plane, and his kids then did a Zoom. It was really touching. He was a really good man. But I mean, I attended a funeral via Zoom because you can't have
Talk,
people congregate. So it's just weird.
talk about the times, huh? And do you personally like feel that we might be that it's going to extend that far out? Is that why you're pushing it? Do you actually think that this year's kind of a
It's
lost
not
year?
that. No, I think people's pocketbooks needs some time to recover.
Hmm.
So I just think May is it just gives everybody more time. I think we'll have solutions. I just don't think people are ready to travel right away.
And yourself, being in business since we know it, and running events like that's your thing. You've had over 2,000 events that you put
Yep.
together
Yep. Yep.
as part of Tampa Bay business owners. that you founded, not taking so many brains and talking to so many people, like, do you think that we're going about this the right way? Do you think that being shut down, being in all these shelters, is that something that we should continue right now, or that we should just get back at it?
If I were the challenge now is we're looking at everything with hindsight and it's
Hmm.
2020. I mean, looking back on it, I think we should have just enacted social distancing rules, shut down the cities because that's where you just can't avoid getting bacteria because people live in huge buildings. Um, and then probably let the more rural parts of the country just distance themselves. And then for people that are a certain age, let's say 60 or over,
Hmm.
we probably should have had where they could stay at home, and if they got unemployed, instead of putting it on the employer, the government would take care of it. It would have it would have still hurt the economy, but it would have kept us kind of crawling along
Hmm.
instead of just shutting everything down overnight. In Tampa, I'm in Florida, so every region's different. Here, the mayor is really smart. She's shutting down entire streets, so the
Oh,
restaurants could put out their tables out on the street, so you could service people outdoors.
huh. That's an interesting way of kind of going around it.
The
So you could.
challenge is there was a lot of information we didn't know,
Hmm.
and I do know people that have passed away from this that are fairly young. So there is a random aspect for the under 50, but you got to look at the numbers, and we didn't have the numbers. So moving forward, I would tell you, I think the social distancing will work. I think we just need some common sense. Like the challenge with the media is they'll show like when Jacksonville opened up its beaches, they were showing like spring break 2 years ago. Friends of
Really?
mine were showing us, yeah, they were showing us drone footage on Facebook. If you knew someone in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
and you'd see the mayor opened up Jacksonville for people to walk, and they were not allowed to sit on the beach. So it was actually used for therapy for people to go out into nature.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure it's fairly safe if you're distant. You're out on the beach. There's wind. It's hot out here. But I'm not an expert, but I would just say we should just use a little bit of common sense. But social distancing obviously is something that is important to keep this at bay till we have a vaccine
Definitely.
or a therapy that helps cut it down.
Are you ready that if the decision has to be made, that you would even push the event further or make it a virtual Podfest next year?
Well, we're going to do a virtual Podfest probably this summer. So I got a master class coming out.
Okay.
So I think like we have great people like you, Mira, that attended. I'm going to reach out to the base, say, hey guys, let's do a whole virtual Podfest via the tool that we're using at Podfest. I think we could do something really amazing. And if I could get 1,000 people on board to help
Hmm.
us promote it to another 1,000, I don't see why we can't do a virtual Podfest globally. I just got to see with my team and our manpower what we can do. But yeah, I mean, we'll have a virtual Podfest. I think we'll be safe next year. Fairly certain about that. You have to realize there has to be a vaccine that's going to come out. Otherwise, there's no economy to live into.
Yeah.
Like in general. So the way I look at it is like if my event doesn't happen next year, there's probably not going to be an economy. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's like I'm willing to take that risk.
Exactly right.
Because that means if my event's not happening, that means all events for the
Hmm.
most part aren't happening. And I doubt they're going to let, like UFC already started doing a fight. They're all figuring things out. And then there's tests where that they're coming out that are almost instant. So I have a feeling we'll just be testing people at the door. I already have a vendor that I've been talking to. They've offered coronavirus testing at events. So that's what's going to happen. The opportunity though is negotiating things now, so you get a great deal next year.
Exactly. Definitely using my business rent as an excuse right now. Well, not an excuse; it's actually genuine. But definitely opportunities to look at and renegotiate things and see. Because I mean, things will change. Everything inevitably will. Their
Correct.
jobs will be lost. I have numerous friends that probably won't have a job anymore, especially in certain industries like maybe gyms or certain entertainment. Certain things might go away for a little while. You,
Well, so 85% of the economy probably will be fine, and then you have the small percentage, but still a big percentage of, like you said, people getting furloughed. There's no better time than now to become an entrepreneur or
Mhm.
test the waters. People have jobs always say, "Well, I have job security." Well, that now has proven not to be true in
Yep.
this pandemic. I'm not saying having a job is a great thing, but don't kid yourself that it's secure. At any time, all this is a game it could be taken away from you. So having some side income through some kind of side hustle, there's nothing wrong with that. So now is a great time to test the waters and start a podcast or something
Mhm.
that you're passionate about and putting it out to the world.
What would you, is that your main advice right now for that person that's at home and it's month 2 now? They're still not sure what to do with themselves.
Yeah, my advice, I have 3 very simple advices because I
Hmm.
think the mental health aspect of this is going to be ginormous. So advice number 1, whenever you feel down, talk to your most positive friend and give them a call, because that person's going to keep you sane and positive. Don't reach out to the person that's going to tell you that things are going to get worse. That's not going to help your psyche. Okay. That's if you know you need to get out of a rut.
Yeah.
That's 1.
Yeah.
Um, 2 is find a hobby or something you've always wanted to do and start practicing it. There's all kinds of online courses. Don't make the excuse of I don't know how to do something. Go on YouTube or buy the course on Udemy. They're very low cost. You could
Hmm.
pick up a skill. And 3 is if you've been wanting to write a book or you want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, there's no better time than now to start practicing. There's no one, look, I just got a 1-star review today after I got 72 like 5-star reviews. You're going to get dinged up. Who cares? Might as well put
Yeah.
it out there and start ugly.
Do you by chance think we're getting into a part in the world where there's going to be an overabundance of this? Like everyone's a coach of that. Everyone's podcast, Instagram, star of that. Is there a fad aspect to it at all that you think?
Absolutely. You're going to see a lot of that. But, the people that are smart and strategically think about the situation, they'll find their way. And those are going to be the next leaders. 5 years from now, you're going to have someone say, I
Hmm.
built 100 million or 5 million or $1 million empire. And you're going to say, how'd you start? And you're going to say, well, I was depressed. I was at home and I was stuck in quarantine and I didn't know what I knew what I couldn't do, but I figured I might as well try and do whatever I could figure out. And that's how I started this business. A lot of these people in the 08, 09 recession have some of the largest online businesses right now, and they credit being laid off or their industry going down in a slump. Now's a great time to do that.
Are you trying anything else in your life right now besides the virtual events?
No, I've been like a full-time entrepreneur, so I'm enjoying the virtual events are probably where I'm going to focus on. And my goal is to get 3,000 people to Podfest next year. So I think the virtual events will be a great way of me
Hmm.
getting that going and doing that. So I'm excited about that.
Almost like an add-on, right? Essentially,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to do virtual events for Podfest this year anyway, so it wasn't like
Hmm.
anything new. I already had that in my game plan because what
Okay,
do you do
but
throughout the year?
did it light the fire just a little bit more?
Well, lit the fire to accelerate it. That's why we're doing one this Saturday after recording for the last 3 weeks. So yeah, it absolutely accelerated it. And it also helped me because it's created more tools, more advanced tools for me to use in the near future. So I'm excited about that.
And did you have to make any difficult decisions right now, like lay anybody off and
I'm very
things like that?
fortunate. My team's going to stay with me. We have enough money for the year. I didn't apply for any of the funding things because there was no need for that since my event happened. I got very fortunate. So in life, there's some luck to play. For me, the luck broke my way this time around. I've had a lot of other where the luck breaks the other way. You
Yeah.
just gotta make the best of it. But for me, the luck broke in my favor this time around.
And it kind of mentioned, that there's definitely some little fad aspect to it, and the ones that will survive will. Are you seeing a lot more of that, like coming at you right now during the COVID times? Like, are you seeing a lot more sales, a lot more sales calls, a lot more crazy
So what I'm
tactics?
seeing right now is a lot of virtual summits, a
Uh
lot
huh.
of network marketing. I haven't seen network marketing, but I know it's out there. My friends are telling me a lot more
Yep.
people getting into network marketing. Um, what I would challenge people to think about is if you're doing a virtual summit, what is the value that you're delivering that I can't get at another virtual summit? So when the barrier to entry is zero and everybody's doing the same thing,
Hmm.
what is the value that you're delivering that's different from other people?
That's a good way to look at it, and that's definitely something that you bring to the table with Podfest, Multimedia Expo. Definitely a different event, and there's a lot going on. You talk about videos, you talk about podcasting, and you have all types of little expos within
Microcons, yeah.
microcons, yeah, within one major event. Why the shift? Like, why didn't you just stick with one from the beginning? Why the shift into the microcons?
Well, because Podfest has all these amazing content creators, and we
Hmm.
decided why don't we allow our community to create what they want for their community and allow it to expand almost like a universe. So that's what we did. We entrusted our community and we asked the different leaders to throw certain events that we think would benefit a lot of people. So let's say, Mira, you could come to Podfest and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I always want to know about this subject. They have it under one. So it's almost like going to an event where you don't really, you could, the unfortunate thing is we have so much good stuff, it's hard to pick. But
Yeah.
that's what you want. Like I would rather you have that than be like, man, all this stuff is garbage. There's only like 2 good presenters. So you want to be the hard to pick conference, because that means your content, you're hitting it, 900 times, 900% out of the gate. And that's what you want. So that's kind of what we strive. We're really known for amazing content. And that's what we want for our community.
Do you think there's going to be a push to more conferences like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, absolutely. There's tons of regional type conferences.
Mm-hmm.
At my size, there's not going to be a lot. There's probably 3 in the world that are my size, and those are only going to get bigger. And then you're going to see a lot of little pockets around, the country and in the world. So at the size of Podfest and the kind of community, we're rare because you showed up to an event where we had 1,500 people, but you felt like family, and I'm sure you made some really great friends as if it was a small conference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we literally spend all year trying to recreate. As we grow, how do we make it feel small and individualized? The microcons are part of that, giving people small, what I will call tributaries before they join the big river that leads into the lake.
Do you think there's ever a point though where, you're too big to fail, like they say?
I don't think so. I think as long as I'm paranoid about making sure people feel connected and I put in the work,
Mm-hmm.
we'll only get better. The only time, we could be too big to fail would be if myself or my team let our eye off the ball. And if that happens, then it's time for us to sell.
And you want to keep that family aspect, that feel. And I feel you're very much involved. And like myself being a business owner, that's one of the things I pride myself on. I always call every single customer after we do a job, no matter what. And I feel with you, it's kind of similar. You're always in touch somehow, some way, via email or some message or seeing someone. How do we replicate you though? Like as you get bigger, how many Chris's can there be?
So that's a great question. So we're going to have an ambassador program, Miro. So
Okay.
we replicate it by you coming back, and now you're part of the leadership team. Alex Sanfilippo is part of the leadership team. Zach Demopoulos is part of it. Glenn the Geek, Jessica Kupferman. So like Allison Melody. So we find leaders within the tribe, and then we have to say to them, so I'm going to say this to you, Miro, and I mean this. If you're at Podfest and you see someone behaving not in accordance with our culture, you have my permission to go up to that person, welcome them to Podfest, but to say, hey, this is kind of not how we interact here. We're more like a family. So put some time in getting to know people and let me introduce you to someone. And they'll cue in real quickly, and they'll understand that we all kind of love up on each other, and we want to make sure that we take care of one another. And what I say is, when that culture is solidified, the crumb snatchers leave. So crumb snatchers are people that come in to steal a crumb and run away.
Mm-hmm.
When they feel a community like that, they don't come back.
What do you think is the point of them then? Like, why do they still show to events?
Well, it's like you said, it's like people that maybe start a podcast thinking they're going to make $1 million overnight.
Okay.
Or there's people that get into your business that think they're going to be rich overnight. It takes a lot of hard work in any business to build a reputation and to build friendships and camaraderies. So some of these people, one, they just haven't been in business long enough. So maybe they were working for someone and they didn't realize like business owners actually collaborate and get to know each other. So one is just, they're not, that's why we would educate them, say, hey, this is not how we do it. So sometimes they just don't know. And then you have some people that don't care. They think that the way you make business is by, dropping the business card on the desk and leaving, just like we get spammed on the internet. Yes. And what I'm really proud of is when you look at our Facebook group, very few times do I have to worry about spam in Podfest. Does it happen? Yes, but nowhere near as frequent as all the other groups that I monitor and I watch. True. And it's because the community knows like that's not where I'm going to spam my friends. Like I know these people.
And would you say that all this is kind of letting you stay nimble as well? Because let's just say, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. And let's just say podcasting is not king anymore and like some new form of media comes in. Does this allow you to kind of be able to transition as well and add in those extra
Absolutely,
pieces?
because we're focused on demand audio and with VidFest on demand video. So we will follow what the trends are and we will bring in the new leaders. I mean, if you look at our speaker roster, very few, if any of them, are what you would call famous,
Hmm.
but they are well known within their niche
For sure.
and they are very good practitioners at what they're using to build their following. And those are the people I think you could learn from because they're usually on the cutting edge of what's going on.
Yeah, because I mean that I could attest to for sure. But from day one to day three for me, it was like walking out of here with all this wealth and knowledge, and I met people that I never realized were as big as they were. Right? These A lot of these people are much bigger than you think they are, and it's but they're
We
all there
have
just
people
walking
with
around talking.
followings
Yeah.
bigger than some of the most famous podcasters that you know in certain niches, but
Hmm.
you'll never know it because that's not why they do that. So that's who I resonate with, the people that are in it for the community building aspect to create something really special. But yeah, like you said, a lot of people, our people are not out there bragging their numbers. And then when you get to know them and they tell you how big some of their followings are, you're like, holy crap. I mean, we have one podcaster, the NFL is putting ads on their network.
Hmm.
But if they didn't tell you, you'd have no clue because they don't see that that's important to brag about that.
Exactly. Exactly. And what would you say, like, based on these times that you're going through now, and then times, in the past, has there been a darker moment in your life than this whole COVID pandemic part, business wise,
Well,
especially?
most of my businesses have been built in recessions. So, dot-com bubble, I was able to come out of that. I lost everything, but then rebuilt. '08 is when we built Tampa Bay Business Owner. So in the
Hmm.
last downturn, I'm actually, my biggest downturn was after I sold a business successfully. I actually got very, I guess the word would be depressed because I lost a future to live into. So here I
Mm,
am with a lot of money,
okay.
sold a company, and I'm miserable. So for
Ha.
me, I have to have a future to live into and be passionate about what I'm living into. And if like right now with Podfest, I'm excited, I'm passionate, I'm serving a purpose and success. When you make money, basically it's people allocating their capital to your doorstep because you're a good steward
Mhm.
of their money. So you wind up making more money because you're creating a really unique service or something that they can't get anywhere else. Therefore, they're voting with their dollars, supporting what you're doing. So I love that part of what I do. And then my job is to allocate that capital wisely and grow Podfest and the businesses that serves their needs.
Have you thought about like virtual reality yet? Is that
We have a friend
on
of
the
mine
horizon?
who created one of the first ever virtual realities and he sold in 99. Um, I've played around with virtual reality. I think it's going to start integrating slowly but surely, but it's all happening. I mean, look at Snapchat and the filters and
Yeah.
what people are using, and now TikTok's really big. It's all blending in. It's only a matter of time.
And like, and being a speaker as yourself, and you definitely, you're not shy to take the stage, but you are definitely, you're very calm. I've noticed that. You're very calm. You're not like over edgy, or like not. You're kind of like in the middle, and it's very pleasant and easy to listen to. Do you have any tips on how someone could get better, someone that's talked as much as you have in front of people?
Yeah, just a lot of practice. I don't get nervous as much, which is weird. I like getting nervous, but I don't as much. Getting nervous is a good thing.
Yeah, it makes you
Uh,
feel alive, right?
yeah, but there like when there's no coronavirus, I probably speak 3, 4 times a week normally because I'm the roles I have locally in different groups. I speak. So what I would tell people, if you want to get practice, go volunteer. Your local libraries are always looking for speakers. Get involved in your local entrepreneurship scene. Whatever it is you're seeing, go to those meetups and then volunteer. I've spoken thousands of times. I enjoy it. I'm doing my first. I got booked to do a virtual presentation tomorrow, so it'll be my first like speaking gig where someone booked me to speak to their employees.
Hmm.
So I'm slightly nervous about that. I got to build a PowerPoint for it tonight, but I'm excited about the opportunity. So I would just say practice. Like the one of the greatest speaking gigs I did last year was at the South Shore Library on a Saturday morning. They had 50 chairs laid out, and I had 11 people show up. Have you ever seen a room where there's 50 chairs and there's only 11 people dotted around?
Yeah, unfortunately,
That's
yes.
a very tough room to
Yeah.
speak in front of because of many different factors. There's no energy because they're all,
Mhm.
one's over here, the other one's over there. They're all spread out. Anyways, when I was done with, and it was a library, so they're promoting like whatever the topic, podcasting, and people show up. They don't even know what's going to happen. So you don't really have the most committed audience, and
Yeah.
it's usually free. But I got a standing ovation. And I realized in that moment, I called my wife and I'm like, as I was heading home, I go, "You're not going to believe this." She goes, "What?" I go, "I had 11 people and 50 chairs were laid out and I got a standing ovation." She's like, "Oh, okay, that's great." I go, "No, do you know how hard that is?" I go, "That's like the hardest thing to do." Like they came out of, from their homes and um, telling stories is the way I like to speak. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask next. Actually, you stole my thunder. Why is storytelling so important, especially to you?
Because if you're good at conveying points through stories, people remember them. They resonate with the soul of another human being, and people could see themselves in the story. So if you could speak in story format, your your impact will be that much greater than telling people what you do or how to do something.
And I hear conveying rules out there, that you can only keep things to a couple minutes, or you want it within an hour. Like, do you have a timeline? Like, what do you think is an ideal speech or ideal talk?
It all depends, but if it's around town, if it's a lunch presentation, you want to be 30 minutes in and out. But you should be able to do things 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour keynote. I think people lose interest after, like, nowadays their attention spans are shorter than before. Back in the old days, people would used to sit on one topic for 90 minutes. I mean, it was crazy. And I mean, it was like all regurgitated the same
Yep,
quotes from Tony Robbins, and
could
you'd
imagine.
sit there for 90 minutes and it would be like they taught you one point. I think now people are like, just give it to me, man. I don't want to. So even when I promote my own, like on my main stage, I think you
Yep.
saw, we have we have a panel that takes like 6 minutes and they deliver
Yeah.
phenomenal content. So we're always pioneering. The Start Ugly book is only 99 pages, but there's not a wasted word. So I took my philosophy of like, just make it concise and to the point, and don't worry about adding fluff. So I'm
Yep.
big on cutting out all the fluff and respecting people's time.
Yeah, because there was a time I think when I thought you were going to do an intro or something, and you were there for like 10 seconds, and you like got off the stage. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it left me really wandering and like thinking, oh, what's going on? What's next?
Yeah, it
But
all depends on, you just want to use time efficiently, and I'm big on just getting to the point. So a lot of these show pony type speakers love doing like 20 minutes about how great they are. Then
mhm.
they tell you a little bit about the thing, then they tell you again how great they are. I really don't have time for that. It's like, if you have 30 minutes, cut to the chase. Help me with some stories that'll improve my life. Tell me something that'll help me, and then at the end, tell me how I could get more from you if I like what I see.
How'd you make yourself different from others?
Well, for me, like, Start Ugly is a parable written book, so that's unique. And then when I'm speaking, it's usually story format, and my stories are fairly unique to me. Most stories are. So it's just delivering an emotion, a
Mhm.
feeling. So I make sure people laugh. Sometimes they'll cry, depending on the story. But at the end of the day, they're taking action, and that's kind of, I think, one of the differentiators.
Yeah, we forget that, right? Because we have these big names out there, Rogan, Gary Vee, you name it, and we all kind of want to be like them, right? We want to develop a podcast, a video, whatever, coaching thing, and it's we want to be like them though. What would you tell to all those people right now that are trying to do that?
Well, I met a really cool martial artist. He was a master of the martial arts, and he was crippled. One of his feet were 6 inches different from the other, so he had crutches. But he had raised some amazing martial artists, and he would say, in order to know who you are, you must functionalize your art form. So functionalizing your art form means you need to know who you are and how you can functionalize it out into the world. And once you have your unique signature, people will respond and come back to that signature. So just be who you are. Like Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan. Gary Vee is Gary Vee. You want to be who you are and not try and copy those individuals, because it's not true to yourself. So I've functionalized my art. I've built, my own community and base, and that's going to keep growing because people know who I am and what I deliver. But it took me a while to understand who I am and what I deliver. So I would just tell people, ask that question: who am I? What am I here to deliver? What am I here to achieve? And then the answers will come into clarity as you ask it.
Nicely said. And that'll perfectly transition out of the first part of our show. Once again, everyone, be sure to check out chriskrimitsos.com, as well as his book, Start Ugly, A Timeless Tale About Innovation and Change, and his Podfest Multimedia Expo, podfestexpo.com. Stay tuned for the change on dates on that as well for next year. Moving on to the next part of the show, Miro Wislow is going to take off. Peace, Chris. It was great talking to you. Well, I'll be back later.
Take care, Miro. Thank you.
Welcome to the round with no name, because they're all taken.
But his evil twin, Miko, is here. So I hope you're ready.
I'm ready, Miko.
10 seconds. Oh, we're going to have some fun here. Miro's the lame one. Miko, I'm the fun one. So you're going to have 10 seconds to initiate an answer really quick. We just want to know a little bit more about you, Chris. So without further ado, you don't want to know what happens if you don't answer right away. So let's not deal with that. But here we go. What is the podcast that changed your life?
Probably Joe Rogan.
What is your favorite book?
Right now, the negotiation book with, I think it's Chris Voss. I really enjoyed that. Never Split the Difference.
If you were about to be stranded on an island, and we're preparing you here. We are. And you can't bring a person, you could only bring one thing. What is that one thing?
Probably a toothbrush.
Huh. I think that's a Boss exclusive, everyone. No one has ever wanted to keep their teeth clean. This is a first. This is good. If we gave you $100 today and you had to come back here at this same time tomorrow and give us $200 back, how would you do it?
Probably buy options on the stock. Spotify, to be exact.
There we go. That's very exact. That's what we need. That's what we want. If you were to start a business right now, I handed you over an unlimited amount of money. Any business you wanted, cannot be anything of your own though that you already have. What would it be?
Probably breeding really rare endangered parrots and releasing them back to the wild.
Wow. That is totally different. We gotta talk about that later. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
How do you drink your coffee?
Black.
Is there one thing every single day you consume no matter what? You can't go a day without it?
Yeah, probably my phone and YouTube.
What about something you would eat or drink?
Oh, food? Green tea.
Green tea. So you do green tea and a coffee?
Coffee in the morning, green tea at night, but green tea 3-4 cups a day.
I would never think you have so much caffeine, considering how calm you are. Your favorite movie?
Something About Mary.
Oh, that's a classic. Well, you survived. Miko is actually pretty satisfied. You answered everything in time. You survived this test. We'll move on until the next time. Peace out.
Later, Miko.
Miro's back. How's it going? That was good. You survived Miko. That was good.
That was interesting.
Yeah, you got them all out pretty quick. We're right on time. Chris Krimitsos, I want to thank you so much, for taking the time today, being on my podcast here, Boss to Boss. The listeners are definitely in for a fun one. And be sure to check out podfestexpo.com for all the up-to-date news on next year's Multimedia Expo. But yeah, the mic is yours, Chris. If there's any final thoughts, anything else you want to finish off with?
No, just if anything, if you're sitting home wondering, should I start something, think about the philosophy of start ugly and don't be afraid and perfect it as you go. And I think you'll see that those seeds will be planted and they'll benefit you later on, but enjoy it right now.
Exactly. Nicely said. Mic drop. Looking forward to the future. Take care.
Thanks, Miro.
That is all for this episode of Boss to Boss. Your next step is to visit bosstoboss.com, where you will find proven techniques followed by professionals to help you make that next step. Again, that is boss2boss.com. And remember, the time is now.